Here we have Shu, Joe, and John. Shu and Joe are founders of Petri Bio. They're making the next generation of therapeutics from gut microbes. John was the CEO and co-founder of Lucira Health, a biotech company that offers disposable test kits to detect RNA and DNA of infectious diseases. John mentored Joe and Shu for the last 3 months, and I will let Shu and Joe take it from here. And I'm gonna disappear.
Thanks, Jiwon. All right, hey guys, how are you doing today?
Oh, good.
Good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. All right, so let's start off. Maybe we could hear a little bit about your personal backgrounds and personal stories.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I'll go first. It kind of flows in a certain way. So my name is Joe Shinneman. I'm the Chief Scientific Officer of Petri Bio. So I got my first job in a microbiology lab when I was 19, and I've been working in the fields of microbiology, genetics, and genetic engineering ever since. It's going on around 14 years now. So my last academic job was a 4-year stint where I was studying the role of the microbiome in disease progression and aging. And through that experience, I came to this realization that a lot of really interesting bacteria were getting picked up in genetic sequencing data. So we could tell that interesting bacteria were being associated with the ability to protect against certain diseases. But when we went to culture them, they wouldn't show up. So when I ended that job, I became very interested in pursuing some kind of project where we could look at some of these bacteria that can't be cultured but seem to be doing something interesting. To try to get at that question, I'll let Shu take over from there.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Shu Li, CEO and co-founder of Petri Bio. So I got my PhD in plant biology, but my training of technology is more on molecular farming. In other words, we were using synthetic biology to engineer organisms, produce different molecules. After graduate from graduate school, I co-founded a startup in San Francisco, YC-backed. We were using genetically modified plants to produce animal protein. That experience not only teach me how to build a company, build a startup, but being in the startup community also helped me talk to different people in different industries and realize how important microbiome industry is growing and how much it can do for both plant health and human health. So when I got the chance to explore something new, start my new adventure, microbiome topic is the first that came to my mind. And also after I met Joe, I realized my molecular farming experience can actually help the production faster and cheaper.
That's great. So you two are essentially a match made in heaven, given your two complementary backgrounds. So let's talk about the company a little bit right now. Like, give me the elevator pitch here and what problem you guys are working on solving.
Sure. So the basic idea behind this is that these gut microbes are associated with a wide variety of disease states, some conferring protection against a diversity of diseases like inflammatory bowel disease, fatty liver disease, diabetes, obesity, even Parkinson's and depression and anxiety. So despite the huge potential of these gut microbes as being used as therapeutics, most gut microbes can't actually be grown in a lab or at the very least at industrial scale, making them problematic to be used as traditional probiotics. So at Petri Bio, we take the genetic elements of these beneficial but difficult to grow bacteria and express them in a system using simple, easy to grow bacteria for further study and development into healthcare products. So this gives us a new pipeline of potentially millions of these bacterial derived compounds to screen and develop drugs out of.
That's great. And do you want to, I think you have some slides. Is now the appropriate time for you to walk us through about how you go about doing this, identifying new areas of opportunity through culturing of bacteria that typically is very difficult to culture or in that pharma typically doesn't deal with?
Sure. Yeah, we have a couple slides here on my screen if we can share it.
Okay.
Is this being shared?
Yep, I can see
Okay.
it.
Yeah. So the basic idea behind our technology is the following. So these difficult to grow beneficial bacteria, they can secrete all these different genetically encoded peptides into the environment, which in their case is our bodies. So in this slide, we see these little peptides in green, blue, and red here. So what we can do is, rather than having to have these bacteria be alive to study these compounds, we can predict them from the genetic sequences that are already made in the public domain. So we can analyze these genetic sequences of these bacteria to predict what kind of peptides they make. Then we can synthesize these in the lab to make just these purified compounds. We can then test these compounds in a high throughput manner, much in the way a drug company would with a traditional chemical library, and try to find the peptides that have the greatest therapeutic potential. And then once we have discovered those and have some IP protection around them, we have a couple different routes. They can either be marketed as biologic therapeutics, so these raw peptides that are put into enterically coated capsule or a pill, or even as a GMO probiotic, so a synthetic bacteria that's easy to grow, easy to scale, and already considered food safe by the FDA, carrying a piece of DNA that makes this peptide that can grow in a patient's gut directly.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Joe. So, so this is kind of a new take on using the benefits of probiotics, and you guys are. Do you explain a little bit about how you differentiate yourselves, from a typical probiotic play in the pharmaceutical space?
Yes, of course. I'll start, Joe. You can add more information. I think first of all, as we showed on the slides, different from traditional pharmaceutical industry, we are discovering this new library of peptides with millions of new compounds no one has been studied before. And also, on the other hand, different from the probiotics and microbiome industry, we notice this industry tend to choose the organic way and searching the bacteria easy to grow outside in the lab environment and discovering their function and the mechanism behind it. But we are skipping this whole step, and by directly looking into the genetic sequence, and we can discover those new functions.
Yeah, I think a differentiator between us and a lot of the microbiome companies that are out there already is that these live microbiome companies have to inherently focus on the bacteria that can grow outside the human body. By choosing our focus to be these difficult to culture bacteria and ones that can't survive outside the body, we're going after completely different mechanisms from what existing microbiome companies can offer.
That's great. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about the market and just the health or the diseases that you're targeting and their health outcomes, and how many people are affected and what types of diseases you're targeting. You mentioned earlier IBD was one of these. Right now there's very few cures for IBD. What are some of the other targets in your pipeline?
Yeah, so as you just mentioned, we're looking at IBD and fatty liver disease initially as kind of our two top pipeline candidates. So in the IBD, there's around 3 million adults that report suffering from IBD in the United States. And again, as you alluded to, with current treatments, only around 20% of those are fully in remission of either ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease a year out from being diagnosed. So that means 80% are still suffering with it or suffering flare-ups from time to time. So it definitely needs to have some new options in that space. And then our other major offering at this point is something for fatty liver disease. So this is a really huge development problem in the Western world that's sort of under the radar for most people. So this is a consequence of obesity that can lead to cirrhosis. And it's thought that around 25% of Americans are at the early stages of this. So there's also no real treatment for this besides trying to lose weight, which is difficult or impossible for some people. And failing losing weight, you need a liver transplant. So that's something that really needs a lot of different solutions quickly. And we're very happy to try to put something in the marketplace for that as well. So in terms of market size, ultimately it's sufficient to get a pharmaceutical company's attention in terms of sponsorship, but together these two diseases have about a $25 billion a year market for their treatments and cures.
Got it. All right, that's great. And then I guess we're on the closing minute here. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the fundraise and the milestones you're hoping to hit.
Yes, so we are hoping to raise 400,000 at least from WeFounder campaign, but with $100,000 we can generate compelling lab-based proof of concept, keep developing our targets for those two diseases, and with more money like 400 to 500,000, we can definitely file more patents and build a strong patent portfolio to defend our technology and start attracting partnership from established pharmaceutical companies.
Fantastic. Well, you guys are definitely taking a fresh new perspective on some diseases that have very few therapeutic and definitely zero cures right now. And it's definitely a perspective that's needed in the pharmaceutical space. So, I think you guys are doing fantastic work, and I wish you the best of luck. And thank you both, Joe and Shu, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.